4 crazy facts about Iran. 1. Before the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Iran looked completely different. Women wore miniskirts, went to universities freely, and didn't have to cover their hair. Nightclubs, bars, and cinemas were everywhere in Tehran. Then the revolution happened and everything changed overnight. The country went from progressive and westernized to one of the most religiously strict governments in the world. 2. Iran used to be called Persia, and it has one of the oldest continuous civilizations on Earth, dating back over 7,000 years. The name officially changed to Iran in 1935, but many Iranians still identify with their Persian heritage. Ancient Persia was one of the world's first superpowers, ruling over 44% of the global population at its peak. 3. Iran has one of the youngest populations in the Middle East, with over 60% under 30 years old. This creates massive tension because young Iranians grew up with internet access and exposure to Western culture, but live under a government that bans social media, strictly controls clothing, and limits personal freedoms. 4. Iran is sitting on the world's 4th largest oil reserves and 2nd largest natural gas reserves. The country should be incredibly wealthy, but decades of international sanctions and government mismanagement have crippled the economy. Inflation is out of control, and many Iranians struggle financially despite living on top of massive natural resources.
Imagine after listening to all these beautiful things about Iran, then you wake up one morning and you begin to see headlines that says missiles launched, military bases attacked, oil routes threatened, and suddenly 2 of the most powerful forces in the world, the United States and Iran, are on the brink of a major war. But here's the real question: what actually happened? Why did tensions suddenly explode in 2026? And how could this affect the entire world? In this video, I'm going to break down the US-Iran conflict in simple terms so you can understand what is really going on. Welcome back to my page. My name is Lesson Ega.
अभी ये देख भाई भाई साहब अभी ये देखो वो भाई साहब मर गया क्या भाई वो भाई अभी यार भाई.
First, you need to understand something very important. The conflict did not start in 2026. The tension between the United States and Iran has been building up for over 40 years. It goes back to 1979 when the Iranian Revolution happened and Iran became an Islamic republic. Since then, the relationship between the two countries has been extremely hostile. Here are the 3 biggest reasons. Number 1, Iran's nuclear program. The United States and its allies believe Iran is trying to develop nuclear weapons. Iran says its nuclear program is only for energy and scientific research, but the suspicions has never gone away. The second problem was influence in the Middle East. Iran supports armed groups across the region, groups in countries like Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. The United States sees this as Iran expanding its power across the Middle East. Then the third problem was the economic sanctions. Because of these concerns, the United States has placed a heavy economic sanction on Iran. These sanctions have damaged Iran's economy for years. So the relationship has basically been decades of distrust, been decades of pressure and threat. So they were just waiting for an opportunity to strike, and I think US just got this opportunity in this year 2026. Let's talk about what changed recently. In the early 2026, tension suddenly exploded. Reports revealed that US and Israeli forces launched coordinated strikes inside Iran. The targets were extremely sensitive. They include military facilities, nuclear infrastructure, strategic command centers. This was not just a warning, it was a direct military attack on Iranian territory. For Iran, this crossed a major line. And remember, Iran still has a dispute, or they're still fighting with Israel. So this was intentional. Probably Israel merged with the US government to strike the Iranian government, but we don't know yet. Iran did not just stay silent. Shortly after the attack, Iran responded with large-scale retaliation. They launched ballistic missiles. They launched drone strikes. And they targeted Israeli territories. They targeted US military bases in the Middle East. They targeted strategic facilities belonging to US areas. So it was like bomb me, I bomb you. Suddenly, the conflict was no longer just between two countries. It started affecting multiple countries across the region. This is why many analysts say that the situation has now become a regional crisis. One of the most dangerous parts of this conflict is something many people don't talk about: oil routes. This is a narrow water passage called the Strait of Hormuz. This small stretch of water connects the Persian Gulf to the global ocean. But here's the shocking part. About 20% of the world's oil supply passes through that route. Iran has repeatedly threatened to block or disrupt ships traveling there. If that happens, it could cause oil prices to skyrocket. It could cause global fuel shortages. It could cause economic instability worldwide. So even countries that are far away from the conflict could still feel the impact. If you're in Nigeria, you know that you're already feeling the impact.
One of the world's most important shipping lanes has been cut off. Iran is vowing to attack any ship trying to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. It is also targeting energy sites across the Middle East, including Saudi Arabia's largest oil refinery, a liquefied natural gas facility in Qatar, and a major oil refinery in Kuwait. And all this is raising energy prices, sending the price of oil and liquefied natural gas higher. Now, the Strait of Hormuz is the narrow channel off Iran's coast. This is where nearly 20% of global oil consumption flows. On Monday, a senior official with Iran's Revolutionary Guards said the strait is closed, and if anyone tries to pass, Iran will, quote, set those ships ablaze. Choking it off could antagonize China. China is the world's largest importer of crude. It's also the biggest buyer of Iranian oil.
For the U.S. perspective, there are major concerns. You know, the U.S., they always want to feel that they are big and they want to rule the world. So their biggest threat is that of the nuclear weapons. If Iran develops nuclear weapons, it would dramatically change the balance of power in the Middle East. Countries like Israel sees this as an existential threat. That is why there has been continuous pressure on Iran to limit its nuclear activities. But Iran argues that it has the right to develop nuclear technology like any other country. So the disagreement has never really been resolved. Right now, the situation is dangerous for several reasons. First, both sides have powerful military capabilities. The United States has one of the most advanced militaries in the world. Iran also has significant missile systems, drones, and regional allies. Secondly, there are many countries involved directly. Several Middle Eastern countries host U.S. military bases. If those bases are attacked, the conflict could quickly expand. And thirdly, there is a risk of economic shock. If oil supply is disrupted, global markets could react immediately. And when energy price rises, it affects everything from transportation to food costs. And this is what happens. Right now, experts are watching three possible outcomes. The first scenario is the de-escalation. Diplomatic talks could reduce the tension. This would involve negotiations and pressure from other global powers. That is, if both sides will accept. Secondly, limited conflict. Both sides continue attacks but avoid full-scale war. So they avoid some kind of sensitive places to send their missiles to. This is actually the most common type of modern conflict. And third, the regional war. If more countries get involved, the situation could turn into a much larger war across the Middle East. This is the scenario many world leaders are trying to avoid.
It's day 11 and Trump has just said that the war will be ending very soon. So here's everything you need to know. Firstly, I'd take what Trump said with a little pinch of salt, because at the same time Pete Hegseth is saying that we've only just begun, and Iran is vowing the opposite, an escalation, saying from now on their missile attacks will only launch warheads weighing more than a ton. What Trump's war ending soon comments did do, however, is aid in bringing the price of oil down from 120, which it's quickly spiked up to now sitting around 90. Trump did then threaten Iran with death, fire, and fury if they stop the flow of oil. So a nice balance of we have no clue what's happening tomorrow. Iran has made a pretty stunning announcement saying that any Arab or European country that kicks an Israeli or American ambassador out of their country will be allowed to freely pass through the Strait of Hormuz starting tomorrow. Vietnam is now urging people to work from home due to fuel shortages because of the war. The EU's council president said that Russia is the only winner of this Middle East war. Speaking of which, the US spoke to Putin for the first time since this all broke out, and he reportedly presented Trump several proposals for ending the war with Iran. Fearing for their safety returning home, Australia have given 5 Iranian football players humanitarian visas after they refused to sing the national anthem during the Women's Asian Cup. As for the rest of their team, well, their bus heading to the airport was temporarily blocked by protesters pleading with women to stay. Also, large crowds have gathered across Iran to pledge allegiance to their new supreme leader, Mujtaba Khamenei. But he himself is yet to make an appearance. See you all on day 12.
So in simple terms, the tension between the United States and Iran is the result of decades of political hostility, disputes over nuclear technology, power struggles in the Middle East, and recent military actions that pushed the conflict into a dangerous phase. And while the fighting may be happening thousands of miles away from many of us, the consequences could still affect the global economy, energy prices, and international stability. This is why the entire world is paying attention to this particular dispute. So if you found this explanation helpful, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel, and tell me in the comment section, do you think this conflict will calm down, or could it turn into something much bigger? Let's talk about it.